That summer still lingers within her as an unforgettable memory, a season so vibrant and pivotal that its warmth and feelings have never truly faded away. As petals drifted down around them like a soft pink rain, a quiet confession hung in the air, a simple yet profound declaration, "I pine for you." Completely stunned by the sudden confession, she stammers in disbelief, asking him to repeat what he just said as his hand gently touches her hair. He repeated his words with gentle certainty, cupping her face before asking if she felt the same way, her nervous grip betraying her emotions. Her response was more than just a simple yes. She confessed that she had never once imagined a life without him, confirming her feelings were just as deep. The news of an engagement spreads quickly, and her attendants erupt in celebration, congratulating their highness on the wonderful development they always hoped for. Her loyal companion, Mu-young, smiles warmly, expressing absolute certainty that she is destined to be the happiest bride there has ever been. She looks at her friend with deep gratitude, reflecting on how Mu-young was the bridge to other precious relationships, thanking her for enriching her life in so many ways. She remembers how they entered her life, not with a sudden storm but like a fresh autumn rain, quietly and gently seeping into the very fabric of her world. Looking back on those golden days filled with both cherished friendship and blossoming romance, she concludes with a simple, heartfelt truth. She truly loved all of them. But if those memories were so perfect, the question hangs in the air. So why did it end like this? An autumn leaf, once a symbol of love, now crackles and burns in a raging inferno. Flames engulf the palace. Amidst the crackling embers and smoke, a lone figure stands in the darkness, drawing a blood-stained sword with grim purpose. The princess gasps for air, blood trickling from her lips as she flinches back, wounded and exhausted from the fight. She faces her attacker and realizes with horror that it is Mu-young, who coldly states she's been waiting before drawing her sword. Before the princess can even finish asking why she's being betrayed, Mu-young lunges forward, striking a devastating blow that sends her staggering. The princess collapses to the ground, defeated, as Mu-young looks down on her with false pity, her bloodied sword ready for the final strike. With blood spattering her own face, Mu-young holds the blade to the princess's throat, taunting her helplessness by coldly asking what she could possibly do to change her fate. Mu-young whispers a final farewell as the world dissolves into a tragic montage of death and sorrow, showing the brutal end of the princess and all those she held dear. She realizes it was foolish to mistake the gentle autumn breeze for comfort, as it was merely the herald of a cruel, unforgiving winter that would claim everything she loved. She jolts awake, panting heavily as the familiar nightmare releases its grip, confirming it was that same dreadful dream once again. She sighs, convinced that if a cursed life truly exists, it must be hers, as the memories of her tragic past haunt her without any rest. These painful memories even seep into her present life, creating a strange disconnect, as she watches herself on television talking about her supportive father. The interviewer on screen continues the charade, remarking that Minister Yoon seems like a wonderful father and that the two of them appear very close. But the truth is a living hell, a cycle of torment that repeats endlessly, symbolized by the beautiful but decaying purple roses that fill her tragic memories. The memories flood back in a painful rush, his confession, the promise of forever, and the ultimate betrayal that ended in her death, all triggered by his sudden appearance. He steps past her, saying, "Excuse me," but she's frozen in place, her eyes fixated on the object he is carrying in his hand. Her face pales with shock and rising fear as she processes what he's holding, her heart pounding in her chest. It's a sword, an anachronistic and threatening object that instantly connects her current reality to the violent end of her past life. He notices her stunned silence and tries to get her attention, asking if she is even listening to what he is saying. Her heart continues to hammer against her ribs as she stares at him, her mind racing with suspicion and overwhelming fear. Swallowing hard against her fear, she finally asks the question that is burning in her mind. Is he planning to hurt her? Her question completely catches him off guard, and he looks at her with genuine confusion, simply asking, "What?" He sheathes the sword with a clunk, explaining that he just grabbed it without thinking because he was half asleep. He then gets to the real reason for his visit, complaining that her music was way too loud for the thin walls. Her hand trembles uncontrollably while she grips her pants, the terror of her past memories making it impossible to remain calm. He pauses his complaint to explain that he's always been the only one home during the day, which is why her noise was so noticeable. He continues to look down at her with an intense and unreadable expression, the air still thick with tension from their strange encounter. He then clarifies the acceptable times for her music, stating that any time before 6 on weekdays should be fine. He starts to add something else, likely an apology for scaring her, but she quickly cuts him off by shutting the door. He's left standing alone in the hallway, finishing his sentence to the door that was just slammed directly in his face. After standing in stunned silence for a moment, his thoughts are suddenly interrupted by his phone vibrating in his pocket. He answers the call with an annoyed grunt, still holding the sheathed sword that had caused so much alarm moments earlier. He walks away, thinking she's a strange woman, while on the other side, Jian finally collapses against her door in relief. Looking at a faint scar on her hand, she winces, grimly recalling that this isn't even the first time she's met someone from her tragic past life. She wonders why she's so shaken up by this encounter, trying to force herself to get it together before the performance. Grabbing her first aid kit, she tries to rationalize the situation, telling herself to stay calm and that they won't see each other often. Her biggest comfort is the fact that he doesn't remember her at all. She's absolutely certain he has no memories of their past life together. The story then transitions to the next day, where Jian prepares for the 80th birthday performance she had mentioned. A commotion begins inside. An older man, looking quite flustered and red-faced, spots her and calls out her name with great urgency. He immediately asks what happened, saying she looks terrible before his eyes quickly land on her bandaged hand. As he fusses over her injury, another man pops in, cheerfully announcing her arrival to the party, much to the first man's annoyance. The two teachers immediately start bickering, with one jealously claiming Jian as his only student. Feeling completely exhausted by their familiar squabble, Jian quietly excuses herself to use the restroom. They agree as she leaves. Back at the party, one of her teachers drunkenly praises her playing, which she dismisses with a laugh. She heads to the restroom. Letting out a sigh, she admits her mind keeps drifting as she tries to wash her hands and focus. The water stings her injured hand, making her flinch in pain as she unwraps the damp bandage. Suddenly, a strange tingle radiates from the cut, sending a jolt of unexplained alarm through her entire body. She gasps, trying to push down the rising panic and regain her composure before the big performance. Facing her reflection, she gives herself a firm pep talk, determined to get it together and nail this performance. Just as she turns to leave, another woman enters the restroom, calling out that she'll be right out. Jian freezes instantly, an icy dread washing over her as she recognizes the unmistakable sound of that voice. A dramatic reveal confirms her worst fears as she turns to face the newcomer. It's Seorin, another figure from her tragic past, now standing just a few feet away from her. Seorin is utterly shocked to see Jian standing before her, her eyes wide as she utters her name, confirming that this person from her past life recognizes her instantly. Her initial surprise quickly hardens into a cold glare as she confronts Jian, her voice laced with hostility as she demands to know why she's there. Stepping forward aggressively, Seorin scoffs at the idea of being happy to see her and immediately questions Jian's defiant attitude. Jian tries to brush her off and leave, but Seorin refuses to let the conversation end, calling out for her to wait. Seorin grabs her arm forcefully. Clenching Jian's bandaged wrist, Seorin makes a strange and possessive demand, telling her not to leave until after she does. Jian stares back in complete disbelief, her expression clearly asking what kind of bizarre power play this is supposed to be. Losing her patience, Jian smacks Seorin's hand away and tells her to just go, ignoring her angry shouts to stop. As Jian walks away, Seorin mutters about how she hasn't changed, while a well-dressed man waits just outside the restroom. As she walks past the man leaning against the wall, a sudden jolt of recognition hits her, causing her to pause. Jian identifies the woman as Seorin Yoon, a prominent actress who is currently considered one of the industry's most promising rising stars. This famous actress also happens to be her half-sister, creating a complicated and tense family connection. More than just a sister, Seorin was the very first memory Jian had of her past life. That initial memory was of a tragic farewell, a painful moment that has haunted her since being reborn. The story transitions back to the present day, where the air is filled with lively chatter and laughter. Jian curses internally. She wonders what's happening, as this event is way bigger than the small get-together she anticipated. Seorin notices Jian's discomfort, thinking her eyes look like they're about to pop out from shock. Just as tension mounts, her neighbor dashes between them, asking if the two women know each other. Jian hates this entire situation and just wants it to be over. But a new message provides perfect timing. Jian tells her teacher it's time to start, prompting him to find a spot. Her neighbor is unimpressed by their last-minute planning. The teacher offers her cushions for the performance, remembering that she always needed 3 of them to be comfortable. She dismisses his comment, but he insists it has only been 10 years. She grips the daejeon in her hands. Her neighbor turns to Seorin, asking if traditional instruments are trending again, which seems to confuse the actress. Seorin realizes he was talking about Jian. She replies that modern instruments like the piano are more popular now. She gives a subtle smile. She notes that Jian looks about her age, condescendingly assuming she's just a hardworking member of the event staff. The neighbor offers a simple agreement as the people around them begin to cheer with excitement for the performance. An announcement calls for quiet as the performance is about to begin, and the man watches with anticipation. Seorin quietly confirms that it's starting, fidgeting with her hands under the table as a sign of her nervousness. Her hand grips her leg tightly as she wonders why Jian had to show up, especially with Mujin present. Her thoughts darken as she considers the implications of this reunion, her composure beginning to crack under the pressure. She commands herself not to panic, but the overwhelming fear is that Mujin will somehow realize who Jian is. She tries to reassure herself that there's no way he could recognize Jian, even with his sharp hearing. As the performance begins, the audience watches Jian, while Mujin observes with a calm and unreadable expression. 10 years ago, a video of a high school girl playing the daejeon in Gasan Park went viral. The girl in the video was actually Seorin, but she lied about her identity to seem like a poor musical prodigy. This elaborate deception fooled everyone, including a young Mujin who was captivated by the performance. In fact, that very lie was what first captured Mujin's attention, forming the foundation of their relationship. The story shifts back to the present day, where a woman's voice shouts for Seorin outside a luxurious modern home. Inside, her room is a complete mess, and a woman asks what's wrong, noting she hasn't eaten in 2 days. She questions if something happened at the event, warning Seorin not to provoke her father into losing his temper. Seorin's hand grips her shirt as she finally answers, admitting that she ran into her at the performance. The woman asks who. Seorin springs upright in bed, shouting Jiansong's name and reminding the woman that Jian is their father's daughter. Her mother hushes her, worried the housekeepers might overhear their family secret. She asks why Seorin still holds a grudge, reminding her it's been years since they kicked Jian out. Her mother presses further, asking if there's anything else bothering her, clearly not believing the Jian excuse. She then suggests Seorin is actually upset because Mujin just dropped her off and left abruptly after the event. A flashback reveals the tense car ride home where Mujin was cold and dismissive, barely speaking to Seorin. He dropped her at the gate with a curt goodbye, confirming her mother's suspicion and fueling her rage. The memory triggers a fresh wave of fury, and she realizes the mess in her room is all connected. She grabs a nearby object, screaming that this entire situation is all because of that hateful Jian song. She screams that she hates her, the memory of a past life flashing before her eyes as she prepares to throw something. As she wishes for Jian to die, a disturbing memory from her past life flashes again, and a strange power lifts her off the floor, much to her own shock. She collapses to the floor, completely bewildered by the strange memory and the mysterious force that just controlled her body. Her mother watches with a deeply troubled expression, her hand clenching into a tight fist as she processes what she saw. A low rumble echoes nearby. Mujin answers a phone call, and the person on the other end immediately asks for his location. His grandfather has been asking for him non-stop, so his uncle came to pick him up. Mujin is annoyed. Mujin informs the caller that he has already arrived and asks where they are waiting for him. He tells them he's passing by the annex building right now, but trails off as something catches his eye. He stops mid-sentence when he spots a familiar figure walking down the street just ahead of him. The scene shifts to a formal family dinner, where chopsticks clack against fine china, signaling the start of a meal. A maid serves food and pours tea for Mujin, who sits at the table with a stoic and unreadable expression. The family is gathered around a large, imposing dining table, the empty chairs and wide spacing, creating a palpable atmosphere of stiff formality and emotional distance between each member. Mo-hyung proudly announces he got first place, but his mother immediately scolds him for speaking so informally to his brother. Mujin dismisses her concern, explaining he's glad his half-brother feels comfortable enough to speak to him so casually now. Mo-hyung enthusiastically agrees with his brother, insisting that they don't need such strict formalities between them. He proudly explains that despite his school's brutal grading, he's now top of the class thanks to his new tutor. Moojin comments that it's impressive, admitting he was never even in the top 10, which shocks Moo-young. Another woman at the table teases Moojin, saying she was more worried about him being sick all the time. Moo-hyung finds her comment hilarious, laughing and shaking his legs as he playfully tells her he doesn't believe it. Moojin says he can't imagine Moo-hyung ever being like that. But his mother quickly tells her younger son that's enough. The aunt chimes in, saying Moojin is handsome and put together, joking that he must take after her. She turns to her father for confirmation, and the stoic patriarch simply agrees before setting his teacup down firmly. The father declares that if he can just see Moojin get married, he'll have nothing left to worry about. He then suggests that Moojin should move back home until he gets married, a proposal that makes Moojin realize the true purpose of this sudden family gathering. Moojin calmly pushes back, stating he's perfectly content living where he is now, prompting his father to ask for the location. His aunt, So-young, excitedly explains he's in Won District, living in a house Yoo-young bought but never used. Moojin confirms it has been very convenient, thanking his aunt for the arrangement. His mother adds that he only moved in 2 weeks ago, as Moojin reflects on his aunt's consistently supportive nature. He reflects that whenever he finds himself cornered, she defends him more fiercely than he ever defends himself. She is his father's sister. A flashback reveals his aunt has always been his staunchest supporter, even from a young age. She was there to congratulate him when his own father would only scold him for getting into fights, creating a deep bond between them. The memories continue, showing his aunt as the only one who cared for him during his frequent illnesses. His father's harshness eventually drove him to leave home, with only his aunt offering a kind farewell, solidifying her role as his only true ally. Back in the present, Moojin looks confused as his uncle suddenly turns on his sister, angrily questioning her decision. He reminds her he said he would give Moojin a house, but she coolly replies he should have specified which one. Moojin finds his uncle's harsh tone strange. He wonders why he cares so much about this specific house. Later that night, the rain has stopped, and a figure walks across the quiet, glistening pavement outside the grand estate. Moojin checks his watch, surprised it's already 9. He stayed longer than he thought before a voice calls his name. His aunt So-young rushes out to meet him, panting slightly as she catches up just as he's about to leave. He tells her she didn't have to come out, but she insists on seeing him off properly before he goes. So-young relays his uncle's apology, explaining he's stressed and didn't mean to cause discomfort. Moojin recognizes this as classic selflessness, as his aunt always worries about everyone but herself. He reassures her that he understands, but then turns the question back on her, noting that she seemed startled earlier. Moojin considers bringing up the topic of his uncle's strange behavior, planning to test the waters and see how she reacts. He knows she's never been good at hiding her true feelings, certain she'll react if she suspects him of cheating. A flashback reveals his uncle confronting So-young, furious that she let Moojin live there. She's apologetic, but he insists she should have known better. In the present, Moojin offers to drive her home tomorrow. She agrees, but her hesitant response makes Moojin wonder if she truly doesn't know. So-young checks her phone, considering whether she should give her oblivious husband a hint about his own infidelity. So-young urges Moojin to leave, telling him to ignore his grandfather's demands for an arranged marriage. She gently touches his arm, sincerely hoping that he will one day fall in love and marry that person. Her only wish is for him to be happy. He quietly asks if she means happy, like her and her husband. She puts on a bright smile, agreeing enthusiastically. Internally, however, she decides to investigate her husband's affair herself first. She waves goodbye as his car pulls away, trying to convince herself that her suspicions might just be a misunderstanding. Her hand clenches into a fist as she looks down, her resolve hardening. She wants to protect that smile of hers. She turns with resolve. Moojin walks down the hall. He lets out a heavy sigh, feeling completely drained by the tense family dinner as he finally reaches his apartment door. Suddenly, a keypad beeps loudly. Moojin wonders what the sound is, turning to see a mysterious hooded figure entering the passcode for Jian's apartment. The hooded figure mumbles in frustration, wondering if Jian changed her passcode, while Moojin watches with suspicion. Moojin steps forward to confront the suspicious individual, his voice calm but firm as he gets his attention. With a sharp and questioning gaze, Moojin directly asks the stranger what business he has with the person living there. The stranger grits his teeth and tells Moojin it's none of his concern, making Moojin wonder if he's a student. Moojin offers his phone for the stranger to use, but the young man dismisses him, telling him to mind his business. A man answers a late-night call from Director Park, wondering about the reason for the call at this hour. Director Park, Moojin, instructs Manager Jong to investigate someone, emphasizing that there are no deadlines or cost limits. Manager Jeong asks for the target's identity. Moojin reveals he wants him to investigate Executive Director Gyu-yong Park. He confirms the target is his own uncle, a surprising and potentially dangerous request given their family ties. The manager is confused, as Gyu-yong barely cares about the company. Moojin is resolute, demanding a detailed report on everything his uncle does, leaving no stone unturned in this secret investigation. After the manager confirms the order, Moojin adds one final crucial instruction: his aunt So-young must never find out. The manager agrees and hangs up. After the call, Moojin sits silently in his room, surrounded by a collection of meticulously displayed traditional swords. His thoughts drift back to Jian's terrified expression, remembering her asking if he planned to hurt her with his sword. The memory clearly weighs on him, his hand covering his face as he grapples with the fear he instilled in her. A heavy sigh hangs in the air, signaling a shift in the story and a moment of quiet reflection. Ji-hoo presses his sister for details, asking if she barely knows anything about her neighbor. John insists she's telling him the truth. He asks if she's interested in him, but she vehemently denies it, exclaiming she doesn't even know his name. At least, not in this lifetime, she thinks, hinting at their shared past. Ji-hoo sounds unconvinced but warns her that as the sister of a soon-to-be global superstar, she can't be meeting shady guys. Jian changes the subject, asking how he found time to visit when he's busy preparing for his debut. He explains his CEO allows him personal days since he'll be swamped later. She asks about school, knowing he must be slammed juggling both. As he takes the dish gloves from her, he confirms his agency insists he at least finish high school. Jian then casually asks if he happens to know a kid named Moo-hyung who is in his same year. Ji-hoo turns in surprise, asking if she's talking about the youngest son of the massive MK group. She simply confirms it. He reveals they're in the same class and asks how she knows him. She explains it's a secret, but she tutors him. Ji-hoo is outraged, complaining about how much the MK heir brags about his status. He says sitting next to him in class is literal torture because of his arrogant attitude. A heavy sigh hangs in the air, signaling a shift in the story and a moment of quiet reflection. Ji-hoo presses his sister for details, asking if she barely knows anything about her neighbor. Jian insists she's telling him the truth. He asks if she's interested in him, but she vehemently denies it, exclaiming she doesn't even know his name. At least, not in this lifetime, she thinks, hinting at their shared past. Ji-hoo sounds unconvinced, but warns her that as the sister of a soon-to-be global superstar, she can't be meeting shady guys. Jian changes the subject, asking how he found time to visit when he's busy preparing for his debut. He explains his CEO allows him personal days since he'll be swamped later. The scene opens in a cozy cafe, where the jingle of a bell welcomes a new customer. Jian sits across from another woman in the bustling cafe, who stares at her intently over a cup of coffee. The woman comments that Jian looks well. After a moment of silence, Jian sets her drink down and asks what brings her here. The woman asks if she surprised her, and Jian admits she did. The woman then reveals Seorin told her what Jian has been up to. She says Seorin mentioned Jian working part-time jobs, and she was worried she might be struggling. Jian shrugs, assuring her she's fine. Jian thinks about how different things were when they were younger, recalling moments of being cared for in a past life. She firmly states that she and Ji-hoo have enough to live on now. The woman laughs, relieved to hear they are doing well. She then tells Jian she's very grateful to both her and her brother. Her gratitude stems from the fact that even after being suddenly forced out, Jian never revealed their family's secrets to the public. She acknowledges it must have been difficult not to resent them. Jian admits she simply didn't want to bother them anymore. The woman then changes the subject, mentioning Ji-hoo's upcoming idol debut. She warns Jian that since Seorin is an actress and Ji-hoo is young, he might use her name for publicity, pointing to a rumored article. However, she quickly tells Jian not to worry about it. Jian promises to talk to Ji-hoo but remains suspicious. After 10 years of silence, she wonders what the woman truly wants. Mrs. Ju-yeon thanks her with a grin, but Jian has had enough. Addressing her formally, Jian states she can't stay any longer. Sensing there's more to this meeting, Jian directly confronts her. She asks Mrs. Juyan to just tell her what she wants. A flashback reveals Mrs. Juyan's memory of the performance event. She remembers Sayanan pointing out the man she was with, a man Jian also saw, and reveals he is Sayan's fiancé. Mrs. Juyan reveals a shocking truth. Seorin is actually engaged to the eldest son of the powerful MK group. Jian remains unfazed, realizing he must be Mohyong's older brother. Mrs. Juyan confirms it, adding that Jian already saw him. Jian's memory flashes back to the event, recalling the man standing next to Seorin. The realization hits her. Her mysterious neighbor, the man from her past life, is actually Seorin's fiancé. Leaving the cafe, Jian processes the shocking news. She realizes she has strayed from the path her past life set for her. She remembers her past life, where she and that same man were engaged for a political alliance between their nations. Though their marriage was arranged, she ended up truly falling in love with him. The memory lingers on her past self. A princess bound by duty who found unexpected love in a political arrangement, a love that now seems destined to repeat its tragic course. That love, which she had cherished so deeply, was doomed from the start, destined only to end in a tragic cycle of betrayal and death on a desolate, lonely battlefield. The cruel twist of fate is that in this current life, the one who is now engaged to him isn't her. It is her half-sister, Seorin, who now holds that position. This knowledge should bring closure, but as Jian walks away from the cafe, she's filled with an overwhelming and inexplicable sense of unease. She tries to pinpoint what's making her feel this way, but her thoughts are abruptly shattered by students rushing past her. Two students playfully shove each other in the crowded hallway, and one of them smacks directly into Jian, spilling her coffee. The scene shifts to a high school classroom, where the air is filled with the casual chatter of students before class. Jihu lets out a huge yawn, rubbing his eyes and complaining to his friend that he is completely exhausted. A quick flashback reveals he was up all night practicing his music, completely forgetting he had school the next day. The realization hits him hard, explaining his current state of exhaustion in the classroom. Nearby, Mohyong is surrounded by impressed classmates. They're amazed he's being privately tutored by Miss Song, the popular English teacher whose group classes are notoriously difficult to get into. Mohyong arrogantly shrugs, claiming his family just paid her a ton of money to secure the lessons. His friends marvel at the power of the MK group, though one admits he finds Miss Song a bit scary. With a sly grin, Mohyong claims Jian is never serious with him. He lies, boasting that she even gives him flirtatious smiles, a comment that immediately catches the attention of a quietly listening Jihu. As Jihu's anger visibly builds, Mohyong escalates his lies, claiming Jin only acts that way with him and even touches his arm during their private lessons. His friends laugh, asking if she let him hit, completely unaware of the fury they're stoking. As Jihu's anger visibly builds, Mohyong escalates his lies, claiming Jian only acts that way with him and even touches his arm during their private lessons. His friends laugh, asking if she let him hit, completely unaware of the fury they're stoking. As Jihu's anger visibly builds, Mohyong escalates his lies, claiming Jian only acts that way with him and even touches his arm during their private lessons. His friends laugh, asking if she let him hit, completely unaware of the fury they're stoking. Mohyong laughs, saying his mom is too strict. He can't try anything now, but hints college will be different. The teacher on the phone clarifies the situation. It wasn't a fight, but rather Jihu just hit Mohyong. The teacher explains that's Mohyong's side of the story, but Jihu has remained completely silent about the incident. The teacher emphasizes that Jihu hasn't said a single word, while Mohyong is a top student from the powerful MK group. Because Mohyong is a good kid who doesn't want to make a big deal of it, he wants to handle this through his older brother, instead of his parents. The teacher offers to give Jian the brother's number. The mention of Mohyong's older brother makes a connection click in Jian's mind, realizing who she'll have to call. With a heavy sigh, Jian agrees to handle the situation and apologizes for all the trouble her brother has caused. The scene shifts to an office where a woman asks Jian if she has spoken to Jihu yet about the incident. Jian confirms she has, accepting a cup of coffee from instructor Kwan, while another woman listens in on their conversation. Jian recounts Jihu's side of the story. He lost his temper after hearing Mohyong spread disgusting lies about her. He admitted he shouldn't have hit him but couldn't stand the disrespect, especially since she's his sister. The woman notes the situation is far more complicated than a simple school fight, especially since it involves the powerful MK group and, on top of that, one of Jian's own students. Instructor Kwon doesn't believe Ji-hoo would act without reason, especially with his idol debut approaching so soon. The woman tells Jian she'll have to handle the settlement with Moo-hyung's brother wisely. Jian fidgets, acknowledging she knows. Kwon asks the woman, his mother, for advice based on her 10 years of experience as an academy director. The woman confirms she has tricks up her sleeve from her long career and tells Jian to listen carefully. The scene shifts to Moojin on the phone with his brother, Moo-hyung, demanding a straight and serious answer from him. Moojin approaches Jian's table in a candlelit restaurant, apologizing for being late. He formally introduces himself as Moo-hyung's guardian, confirming he is the person she was sent to meet for the settlement discussion. The scene is set in an upscale restaurant, where a meal has been served for their formal and unexpected meeting. The atmosphere is tense and quiet, as Jian nervously fidgets with her food, remembering her instructions to listen carefully. Jian recalls the advice she received: offer to meet and apologize, as the brother might refuse to avoid escalating the issue. She had fully expected him to refuse the offer, but he didn't. In a flashback, Jian remembers the phone call where she offered to apologize in person. To her complete shock, he immediately agreed, saying they could meet that very night and he would send the location. Back in the present, Jian sips her wine, feeling completely drained from rushing out to this sudden and stressful meeting. Moojin observes her from across the table, his expression thoughtful. He begins to reflect on their previous encounters and her strange behavior. He recalls from his point of view that she has been weirdly wary of him ever since their very first encounter. This initial hostility has puzzled him, but now he starts to form a theory about its origin. He speculates that perhaps she already knew from the beginning that he was related to his uncle, which would explain why she seemed so guarded and mistrustful of him from the very start. He then remembers the incident where he confronted her with a sword over the noise complaint. He concedes to himself that her fear in that particular moment was entirely his own fault and completely justified. Moojin observes Jian, thinking she looks a bit tired. He wonders if she always dresses this formally for work. As Moojin wonders if she dressed up for the occasion, Jian breaks the silence. She announces that she will be ending Moo-hyung's tutoring sessions by the end of the week, leaving him completely surprised by her sudden decision. Jian explains her decision, stating that she believes quitting is the right thing to do. She's telling him now to ease any worries. Moojin questions her decision, asking if it's okay for her to quit. He notes that she even came over on weekends for private lessons. Jian insists on taking responsibility as Ji-hoo's sister. Moojin counters that his mother wouldn't want such a talented tutor to quit. Jian offers to refer another qualified teacher. Moojin taps his fingers, wondering about her motives as she decides to be honest. Moojin admits he spoke with Moo-hyung and believes his brother was at fault. He highly doubts Ji-hoo would hit him for no reason. He tells her she doesn't have to quit, suggesting they can talk things out. He reminds her that they're neighbors, after all. Jian insists that it's fine, but reveals the real reason. She doesn't think she can look at Moo-hyung like nothing happened. Moojin finally realizes that she truly means it. He hadn't expected her to be so insistent on quitting the tutoring position. Moojin realizes his initial suspicion was wrong. Her insistence on quitting proves this tutoring job wasn't just a ploy to get closer to his uncle, a thought that had been bothering him. He considers the possibility that this entire situation has just been one big misunderstanding on his part. The soft melody from the grand piano floats through the elegant restaurant, creating a romantic atmosphere as Moojin watches Jian from across the table, his expression unreadable. Moojin breaks the silence, addressing her as Miss Song. He then asks a seemingly innocent question: does she only teach English? He presses further, asking if she also gives daejeon lessons. The question hits her like a physical blow, her eyes widening in shock as she realizes he might know more than he's letting on. I hope you enjoyed today's story as much as I did. I would appreciate every like and comment, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. If you still have the day ahead of you, I wish you a wonderful rest of the day, and if you are tucked up in bed and going to sleep, I wish you sweet dreams. Bye-bye.